guys, it's Amy here, and today I bring you my April wrap-up. So I read a total of 11 books this month, a mixture of graphic novels and regular novels, so I'm just going to jump straight into them because otherwise this video is going to be horrendously long. I've actually written reviews for most of the books that I've read this year on Goodreads and on my blog, so if you want to go and check that out, that would be really awesome. So the first book I read this month was Allegiant by Veronica Roth. This is the third book in the Divergent trilogy. My written review for this one is very long and rambly because I had a lot of thoughts on it. I gave 3 out of 5 stars to this one, not because I didn't enjoy the story, because I did really enjoy the plot of the book. I won't go into the details in case you haven't read it, but there is a big thing that happens in this book and I actually really enjoyed that part of the story. I thought the whole plot was really good. The thing I didn't enjoy about this book was the interactions between Four and Tris, the two main characters. I think this is because I read Divergent and Insurgent a couple of years ago now and I couldn't really remember it very well. So instead of rereading them, I actually just decided to watch the films and then read the final book. I think it's because I like the actors so much that I just couldn't imagine them acting out some of the scenes from this book. Like, some of the interactions between Tris and Four were so kind of petty and I just didn't enjoy reading it. I found myself getting really frustrated every time they were together. Like, either one minute they were kissing frantically and the next minute they were arguing about something really silly, and it just began to really grate on me, which was a real shame because I was actually really enjoying what was happening in the story apart from the interactions between those two characters. Let me know what you thought of this one if you've read it, because I'd be interested to see the differing opinions on it. 3 out of 5 stars. Moving on! The next book I have is a graphic novel and it is Mercury by Larson. I enjoyed this book. I didn't think it was amazing. It follows the story of 2 girls, one living in present day and one living in 1859. Back in 1859 there is a young girl who lives on a farm with her family and they don't have a lot of money until one day a strange handsome guy comes along and says that he can find gold on their land. Her father agrees and allows this guy to live with them and look for gold on their land, but he actually turns out to just be a bit weird. I won't give away the story, but the outcome of that then affects the present day girl and we see her story as well. It was an okay graphic novel. I don't think I'd ever read it again. In case you're wondering, the illustrations are all done in black and white, which I did enjoy actually. So 3 out of 5 stars to that one. The next 2 things I read was Saga Volume 1 and Saga Volume 2. These are science fiction, graphic novel, comic type things, and they follow the story of 2 rival species that are at war with each other, one on the planet and one living on the moon. These 2 people here are actually both from each of the rival species and they've had a child together, which is obviously a big no-no. So their respective species are actually out to get them and to find their child and kill them. They've sent these galactic assassin type things after them to make sure that it gets done. And obviously volume number 2 carries on with the story. I won't say much about it, I don't want to spoil it for you. I found that I really started connecting with the characters. In book 1 I didn't feel like I'd really connected to them because obviously it's quite a short book and you don't really get a chance to really see much of the characters because they're trying to fit so much of the story and so many different aspects into the book. You don't really spend a lot of time with one specific character. But now I've read volume 2, I'm really enjoying the characters a lot more, and I think if I read volume 3 and volume 4 I will really love them by the end of it. Either way, I gave both of these 4 or 5 stars each and I'd recommend to anyone who hasn't read anything like this before. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous, I really love them. I think actually this is probably my most enjoyed graphic novel that I've read so far because I think the illustrations are gorgeous. The next book I read was also a graphic novel comic thing and it was Sex Criminals Volume 1. I think I gave this one about 3.5 stars. I did enjoy it but I didn't think it was amazing. I probably will pick up the second volume at some point but I'm not eager to do so very soon. This follows the story of a girl and a guy who, when they have sex with each other, they stop time. The girl works for a library that's in a lot of debt to the bank and it will likely close down if they don't pay back the money. The guy actually works for the bank but he absolutely hates it and he hates his boss as well. So they had to plan to have sex with each other, stop time and rob the bank so that they can then save the library. I did enjoy the premise of the story but I just don't think I really connected with the characters. I don't know whether it would be like a similar thing to Saga, like if I read volume 2 I would really enjoy the characters a lot more. I don't know, but I don't think I'll be picking up volume 2 anytime soon, to be honest. This year I've set myself a little bit of a challenge to try and finish off as many series as I can so that I can start some new ones because I have some series that I started such a long time ago and I just haven't got around to reading them. So along with finishing the Divergent trilogy this month I also finished the Chaos Walking trilogy, and this is Monsters of Men, the 3rd book. I felt this book finished off the trilogy really well and I think I'd give the trilogy as a whole like 4.5 stars out of 5. Don't want to give away too much but the characters in this book are phenomenal. I really enjoyed them. The 2 main characters, Todd and Viola, I absolutely love their interactions with each other, so when they are together in this book it is just really nice. The basic premise of the story is that it follows humans and they move to a planet where they think that they're going to have safety and a new life and they start like a new world. Upon arriving they discover that everyone can hear the men's thoughts. Nobody can hear the women though, which which causes a massive lot of tension between everyone, because obviously if the women can hear the men's thoughts but the men can't hear the women's thought, it's just not good. So the trilogy is set about 20 years, I think, after they've settled on this planet. We follow the protagonist Todd, who believes the women have all died from catching mysterious germs, and throughout the novels he discovers that a lot of what he's been told as a child is lies. Massive themes of war and politics and the way things are run and world and new life and all these kind of things. It's a really fantastic trilogy. I'd really recommend to anyone who hasn't picked it up yet, because it's a really unique YA dystopian trilogy. Next I have a book that I was sent from Canongate Books, and it is Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. I've actually filmed a whole video on this one because I had so many thoughts I wanted to share with you. I really enjoyed this book. 5 out of 5 stars, and it's gone into my favourites, and I've already decided that I'm going to be rereading it very soon. If you want to know my full thoughts on this one, I will be putting up a video later this week. The next book I finished this month was another trilogy finisher, and it was Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. This is the third and final book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. If you've heard me mention this trilogy before, you'll know that I was very surprised that I actually enjoyed them, because I didn't enjoy Cassandra Clare's Mortal Instruments. I think I got about 2 or 3 books into that series and just really didn't enjoy it, so I was very surprised when I discovered that I really enjoyed the Infernal Devices. The trilogy follows a young American girl named Tessa, and she goes over to England to help her brother. On arriving in England, she discovers that her brother is missing, and she gets taken by these 2 evil warlock ladies. The warlock ladies, known as the Dark Sisters, are adamant that Tessa has a power within her which she is concealing. Through much pain and work with the Dark Sisters, Tessa actually discovers that she is a shape changer, and she can take on the form of anybody as so long as she has a object or something to do with them. This is obviously a very powerful ability to have, and Tessa, as far as she is aware, is one of the only people on the planet who can do this. Tessa discovers that the Dark Sisters actually have a more sinister plan that they want to do with her. So very luckily for her, one night Will Herringdale from the London Institute of Shadowhunters pops into her room and saves her. That all basically happens at the beginning of book 1, and then the trilogy follows Tessa as she gets integrated in with the Shadowhunters, living with them in London. She also ends up in a bit of a love triangle with Will Herringdale and another guy called Jem, who is another Shadowhunter. I actually thought the love triangle was written really well. I'm not a big fan of romance, but I thought the dynamic of those characters was really good. I found myself rooting for them all to just be really happy, and I did enjoy the way the trilogy kind of concluded. It's really hard to do a wrap up with books that are the end of trilogies, so let me know down below if you have any specific questions about these finishing books, because I don't want to spoil people. So if you saw my last video, which was a book haul from the Hotkey blogger brunch that I went to, you'll see that the next book I actually picked up there, which was Heap House by Edward Carey. This is the first book in the Ironmonger trilogy. I thought this book was brilliant. I gave it about 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed the story, and I can't wait to get my hands on the second one. This follows the story of the Ironmonger family who live just outside of London in the massive heaps of rubbish that the Londoners push out. You can see here on the front, this is the heaps, and this is the house that they live in that is made of all the rubbish that is left over from London. When the Ironmongers are born, they are given an object, and this is known as their birth object. It's supposed to represent who they are as a person, and they're supposed to keep it on them all the time. So you can see on the cover here, this is Clod Ironmonger, and he has his plug, which is his birth object. Now Clod has a very unique ability in that he can hear people's birth objects. They are saying names to him. The other protagonist is a young servant girl named Lucy Pennant, who gets brought into the Ironmonger house to serve. Clod and Lucy meet and begin to uncover these dark secrets that are connected with the birth objects and the Ironmongers as a whole. I don't think I can really say any more because it is a really fantastic and unique story. If you ever read anything by Philip R. Dar, like the Unlikely Exploits trilogy or the Eddie Dickens trilogy, or if you love the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket, I would say you would probably enjoy this book too. Half the time I just don't think the characters even really wanted to be speaking to each other. It was written in such a brilliant way. I just loved it. The next book I read this month was also one that I picked up at the Hotkey blogger event, and it was Being a Girl by Hayley. It was a very quick read for me. I read it in one evening and really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's essentially a comedic yet very informative book on being a girl. I would recommend this to all girls really. I don't think you would need to be young to read this book. I think even if you're a withered old lady, you would probably learn something from this book. There is so much information in this book. It is really brilliantly done. There are chapters on hair, periods, fashion, sex, all these different things, and Hayley Long does it in such a brilliant way, which makes it just a really enjoyable thing to read. Something I thought was really good was at the back of the book they have this big long list of things that you may need help with. There's hotlines on there, there's websites for drugs and sex and anti-bullying and all these things like that. It's really informative book and I really enjoyed it. Now on to the final book, which was The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. I read The Day of the Triffids by John Wyndham a couple of years ago and absolutely loved it. I did really enjoy this book. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Day of the Triffids though. The Midwich Cuckoos follows the story of a small village called Midwich, and one day the whole village just drops unconscious. Seems to be this barrier around the village, and if you walk through that barrier you drop unconscious. Obviously this causes a lot of chaos and lots of people don't know why this is happening, but slowly the people of the village start to wake up again and there doesn't seem to be any damage village done, so they just kind of forget about it. Until a short time later, when pretty much all of the women in the village discover that they're pregnant. The village takes it upon itself to keep the information secret and to keep all of these women kind of hidden from society so that they don't end up having loads of press and loads of people coming to their town. That's kind of 100 to 150 pages of the book is a massive build up to whether these babies are going to be okay when they're born. All 60 babies are all born around the same time, and all the people in the village see that these babies are actually all pretty much identical. Around 30 boys and 30 girls, and they all look identical, and they all share these weird glowy golden eyes. I won't divulge anymore because actually once the children are born and start growing up, all these weird kind of crazy things start happening, and it's really exciting. Though I guess what was going to happen at the end of the book, I actually thought it was a really brilliant ending, and it actually bumped it up from a 3 stars to a 4 stars for me. If you haven't read anything by John Wyndham, I would highly recommend The Day of the Triffids, and this one is also very good as well. So those are all the books I read in April. Let me know down below if you've read any of these and if you enjoyed them or if you didn't. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything down below. If you want to be my friend on Goodreads, I would love that. I hope you're all having a brilliant day, and I will see you soon. Bye! So this follows the story of a mermaid named Lorelei who ends up washed up on a beach completely naked. Not only is she completely naked, she is also not a mermaid anymore.